Meaning, if you do happen to say something you want deleted, you can send Kathy an email.
Don't say anything you want deleted.
We'll try to break it. Anyway, so first, is there anyone here that's a new member or the first time that you have? Hey, hi.
Me, hi.
Welcome.
Thank
Welcome.
you. Thank you.
You want to tell us who you are and
Oh,
maybe why you?
why I'm here. My name is Jeannie Alexander, and I was brought up in a very political family, let's say that. And I really haven't had much to do with being involved in probably the past 10 years. So I'm originally from Seattle. I moved out here about 3 years ago. So with kind of the way everything's going on, I thought it's time for me to quit just watching stuff and actually do something. So that's what I'm doing here. Indivisible is how I found out about you guys.
Okay.
So yeah.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Anyone else? I see mostly. Yeah, hi.
Well, this is not my first visit.
Right.
This is my second visit.
Yeah.
So I thought I'd open my mouth. And thank you for this interesting program. And I'm sort of interested in what y'all are doing from the community movement viewpoint. So
Thanks.
may see more of you.
What is your name?
Tom Gottlieb.
Hi, Tom.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
Great.
Okay, good. Okay, then another quick announcement. When people are speaking, please pay attention to Pat Malone. She is the timekeeper. So we want to try to let everybody have and also I don't see any elected officials or candidates for public office. Don't see any. Okay, but if you are, raise your hand. Okay, so the next item that we want to do is called What Gives You Hope and What Keeps You Up at Night? So if there is something that is keeping you up at night or giving you hope for the future, now's the time to just tell us all about it. We don't want to be really long-winded because we want a lot of people to speak up. So, Mike.
Oh, Trump getting indicted.
Okay. Anyone else have something? Yeah.
Something that gives me hope. I read that there was a judge in Texas who has stopped the book bans, said all books must be put back on the shelves pending the evaluation because they do not believe it's constitutional.
Wow.
Yeah. I have a quick one. The Senate passed a rescinding of the authorization for use of force. Both of them, one that was passed in 2001 and 2002, that have been used to justify a lot of our wars. And I have something that keeps me up at night, and that's the increasing militarism around our foreign policy. Yeah, we're up against powerful forces. Anyway, anyone else?
I just got an email from Lindsay Doherty, who's the HD 24 House Representative. And she was talking about 3 bills that I'm not sure exactly where they are in the process, but they're moving along. And they're all pertinent to today. One is called Increasing Access to Reproductive Health Care Services. That's HB 23-189. 188 is protections for accessing reproductive health care, and 190 is prohibiting deceptive practices at anti-abortion centers. So I think we're lucky, fortunate that one of our House reps is you know, behind these and moving them forward. That gives me some hope.
Yes, yes.
Groups.
What? Oh, yes. Yeah, well-
When people are speaking in the room, have them speak loudly towards the microphone. So we have some very mild-mannered people lurking in the back of the room who are making it difficult for us to hear anything other than muttering.
Okay.
Thanks, Taylor.
Sorry.
Uh, So anyway, yeah, there are two people that came in after we had the people welcomed. So,
Do I look like
welcome.
I'm trying to hide with this hair?
So if you want, you don't have to, but if you want, you can tell us who you are and why you're here.
My name is Julie. I'm in the Facebook group. And I actually, when I was in college, I worked for Dr. Hern's answering service.
Oh.
That was a long time ago.
I mean, I couldn't, I thought I heard my name mentioned. I couldn't hear everything there. What was that?
Oh, I just mentioned that back when I was in college in the early 90s, I worked for your answering service.
Oh, you did?
I did.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
What is your name?
My pleasure. My name's Julie.
Yeah,
Julie Gleason.
Julie Gleason.
okay.
I haven't heard that in about 20 years.
Whole group.
And Katie?
I'm Katie Odell. I'm in the Facebook group. I came to one meeting, I think last summer. And I'm always following along and wanting to get involved in today's topic is especially hard to find the right word, not exciting. Excited to hear from some experts about it and what we can do about it.
May I say something?
Yes.
So as brand new members, if at any point you decide that one of the action teams that we have, and you're going to hear from each of the leaders, that you want to at least be informed and be on their distribution, let any one of us know, and we'll make sure that if you're on our database, which not all Facebook people are, only if you've given us your contact information, then we'll do that. We'll add you anytime that you reach that point. Okay? All right.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Also, we do a lot of surveys through email, through MailChimp. If you give us your email address, then you can participate and vote, like if you're going to endorse any candidates in the election this year. So if you don't give us emails or you don't participate that way, it's hard for you to have a say in the types of things that we're voting on.
We can't hear on Zoom.
Okay. And if you want to vote in everything, I think you still need to go to the Facebook page, right? And sign up to be a member of APA, Arvadans for Progressive Action. Yeah. So,
We think we're muddying the waters.
well, if I think that's a good thing for new people to do, to go to the Facebook page and indicate you want to be a member.
Not
You mean the
everybody wants to
website.
be on Facebook.
Website.
I'm
The
on
web.
in the
Everybody's on
Facebook group
Facebook.
and on the email list.
Right, whether you're on Facebook or whatever,
Mhm.
yeah, go to the webpage, check the amendment. Okay, yes,
I'm not in the Facebook group, but I have a new email address. So who should I give it to you?
Yeah.
okay, great. So the last item before we get to our program is we pass the hat. We don't fill out fundraisers, but we need, we collect money, passing the hat pays for this room, so we pay the church to be here. And it pays for, we have monthly expenses for our website, for our email program, MailChimp, that keeps track of all of our Zoom. Yeah, and the Zoom, yeah, and the Zoom account. Yeah, so we have monthly expenses, so yeah, we pass the hat. Okay, I think that's all. So I will turn it over to
action team.
Oh, action team.
Reports.
Sorry, I forgot the action team. Very important. Okay, communication is Allison, and I don't believe she's
not here.
she's not here.
Is she up there?
No. Is
She's-
Allison, are you on Zoom?
She is enjoying a beautiful spring day with 10 inches of brand new powder in the mountains. So
Okay.
Okay, so the next one is education, which is also Allison. So the next one's anti-war, which is me. And I just have two quick announcements. One is that tomorrow, Media Benjamin is speaking in various places. Well, tomorrow she's speaking in Boulder. And then she's speaking like 5 different times in the metro area. But the anti-war action team is carpooling to see her in Boulder tomorrow at 2 o'clock. So you need to be, so we're carpooling from my house at between 1 and 1:15. So if you want to go, let me know, so I don't take off without you. And I do have some cards that with my phone number and email, if you want to be getting more. Well, I'll just bring them. So you can come and get them. And what?
Who is this person?
Media Benjamin is one of the most active anti-war protesters in the country. She has a way of getting into things and getting attention for anti-war. She has written a book on Ukraine that gives a little bit of the history. It's not a dry history book where you have to, it's very readable, but it gives you an idea of what's going on.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's what it is for the anti-war. So I said I had two. I can't remember that one. So now the environment.
Organization Code Pink.
What? Oh, what?
Works with the organization Code Pink.
Code Pink. Yes, she is a co-founder of Code Pink with Julie Evans, I think it is. Anyway, she's co-founder of Code Pink. So she is pretty active. The next one is environment, and that's Taylor.
hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, so I'm the team leader of the APA environment team, and we are actually going to have an April Zoom meeting. That's going to be on Monday at 6:30. We'll keep it short. If you would like to participate, send an email to apaenvteam@Google or Gmail, all one word. There's 2 activities that we're planning. The first is the upcoming Arvada Kite Festival, which is going to be on Sunday, April 16th. It starts at 10 o'clock at the Stenger Sports Complex in Arvada. We will again be working on the sustainability crew, and Bruce can certify that it's an excellent time. It's a lot of fun. What we're doing is we're trying to make these Arvada City Festivals zero waste events. So we have a crew of people. We stand at the trash, recycling, and composting barrels, and we interact with the public, trying to figure out what belongs in what barrel. And it's actually a lot of fun. Our next activity that we have planned is going to be an Earth Day cleanup of Ralston Central Park. That will be followed by a picnic. So that happens on Earth Day, which is Saturday, April 22nd, 10 o'clock in the morning is when it begins. This will be done in conjunction with the Alta Vista neighborhood. So Alta Vista neighborhood has signed up with the city to take control and cleaning of the section of the Ralston Trail that runs along the Ralston Park from Garrison to Carr Street. So the members of the cleanup crew will meet at 9:30 in Ralston Central Park, and we'll start walking the trail and walking the stream bed and trying to pick up trash. Kids are more than welcome. Once we've got the park picked up, we'll wash up and we'll have a picnic. So be sure to bring food and water. You should wear good shoes. You don't want to be going around in sandals trying to climb in and out of the stream, and have a good pair of gloves. See you there. Bye.
Thanks, Taylor.
Could you give the name of the park again, please?
The park is Ralston Central Park. This is the one that has the splash pad. So it's located at the intersection of Ralston and Garrison. The entrance is actually on Garrison. The other place that you can park is along Brooks. And where we're going to be cleaning up will be in between Carr Street and Garrison. And the picnic will be just in the at the picnic tables alongside where the splash pad is and the kids' playground.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Any other question? Okay, the next is political action, which is Joyce Richardson, who's not here. So I will give a quick update for her. The political action is working on questions for city council candidates. And they sent out a survey. So fill out the survey. They want to know what you want. If you didn't get the survey, that means you're not on our emails. So give us your email if you want to fill out. Okay.
Bruce, can I just add that the survey is also, the link to the survey is also posted on the Facebook page, so that we can get as much input as possible.
Right, so it's not restricted to members, it's on Facebook and everywhere, so we're just
I'd
collecting.
still urge people to give their email in, so you get all the other good stuff, but it is on the Facebook page.
Okay, then social connections, Julie.
Hi, can everybody hear me or you walk up there?
Come up here, Julie.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where do you want me to stand?
Just right where I was standing.
Okay. Hello, I'm Julie Callahan. We've recently made a social connections team. Here is the flyer for the Earth Day that I worked with Bob on. I've got a few things to finish. I want to put an APA logo. I want to put a Alta Vista neighborhood logo, and then a QR code. So if somebody scans it, it will take them to our webpage. I don't think we're going to put a lot of these out, but like one of my teammates at work has a young daughter and she wants one. I want these to be available for you to print so you can hand it out, and we can have something like this with a QR code on site on the 22nd, so people can just scan, learn about us. Okay. I've started working with Bob. Bob, are you on? No, I've started working with Bob, who for a career did marketing and social connections. So he and I are probably going to be working in tandem. My vision was to have social events for current members to get to know each other better, connect with each other, become more active. His vision is to grow. So they're very two different visions, and we're both looking to do fun things. We just had a coffee. We've had 2 coffees, and I think they're roaring successes because we get a visit. Our next coffee is going to be on April 8th, which is a Saturday. So hopefully we can get some people in who work during the week. That will be to be announced. I want it to be in East Arvada because the other one was in West Arvada. I'm looking at April 13th, which is a Thursday. Nobody has any action teams, do they, that night? And we're probably going to do a little dinner. I want it to be an outdoor thing so people can bring their kids. I will put that on Facebook and on the action team. And then the 22nd, we will be having the Earth Day cleanup. The last thing in April is on April 25th, there's a jigsaw puzzle game night at Colorado Tap House. You can have teams up to 6 people. I'm gonna put that out, and if we get up to 12 people, we'll try and have 2 teams, and it'll just be a fun thing to do. If anybody needs to contact me or wants to be part of the team, if you can put my contact number on there, it's my best way to get a hold of me is text me at 720-633-1348. Thank
Hang
you.
on, 633.
1348. Thank you.
Okay, well, now we're ready for
Oh, wait, we got Mindy.
Affordable housing.
affordable housing. Sorry, Mindy. What happened? I had a little battle with the printer. And it didn't print my agenda, so I wrote it all out. I apologize. Yeah, affordable housing is doing great things.
Well, there's a lot of bills in the state legislature right now that are sort of sitting in the hold. You know, our legislators are working on the budget, the long bill, and a bunch of really important things for gun rights, reproductive rights, and keeping them up late at night. So the housing, affordable housing and renters' rights bills are sort of pending, but hopefully now we'll start to see some motion on them to really help, especially things like a land use bill. On a local level, the city of Arvada has hired a housing development specialist. She started like a week ago, so we're looking forward to meeting her. We won't poke her until she has a few weeks under her belt at least. And then we'll try and set up a meeting to hear what's going on with the city. And they're hiring a homeless program manager to help more, you know, so they're actually, the city is actually putting staff time into both affordable housing and homelessness, which I think is really good and really important. And those are the types of things that we asked them for a year ago. So we're really happy with that. We don't have regular team meetings, but as things come up, again, I'll keep emailing people and we'll keep you in the loop.
Okay, now. Turn it over to Kathy. Very informative program.
Thank you, Bruce. Right, here we are. Good afternoon, everybody. Hi, I'm Kathy Blake, the APA Healthcare Action Team Leader. And our team advocates for a publicly financed, privately delivered, universal healthcare system in Colorado and nationwide. We also advocate against the privatization of Medicare, privacy with Medicare Advantage being one of those private things, and ACO REACH. And we meet, our team meets on the second Saturday at 4 p.m. and it's on Zoom. Today, we are focusing on reproductive justice in healthcare. Kelli Curl will be sharing about safe access to protected healthcare bills, which Pat already mentioned briefly there. And she's going to talk for 20 minutes. Dr. Warren Hern, our second speaker, will also talk for 20 minutes. There will be 15 minutes for questions and answers after both speakers have talked about what they need to talk about. So please
Kathy,
post.
can you speak a little closer to the hour?
Oh, okay. Okay. Please put, this is for the online people, put your questions in chat. The chat button is on the bottom of the screen and looks like a bubble. So just click on that and type in your question. Okay. So briefly, we're going to do just a quick update on House Bill 23-1209, which is analyzed statewide publicly financed healthcare, which we discussed at the January meeting just a couple months ago. And Taylor put it on the APA website under blog healthcare, and you can see it there. And this bill would improve reproductive, would include information on reproductive health care. And just like when Mindy was saying, It's right now it's in appropriations. Other things are going on, and so look for things to happen in a little more into April. So stay tuned. Okay, here we are. Our first speaker for today is Kelli Curl. Kelli is a public health professional with expertise and experience in public health and health communications, reproductive and sexual health, maternal and infant health, communicable disease, emergency preparedness, and vaccine preventable diseases. That's a mouthful. She currently serves as the public health policy advisor for Jefferson County Public Health. There she coordinates public department policy and proactively engages with policy opportunities and needs for the community. She has a master's degree in public health and a BS in biomedical science, both of those in Colorado. Our second speaker is Dr. Hern. He was featured in a 2013 movie called After Tiller, which was an amazing movie. I saw it, got a DVD on Netflix, and Pat informed me you can also go to the Jefferson Library and you can also see it there. Yeah, so I would check with the librarian because I don't know how to do that.
And what was the name of that?
After Tiller.
Thank you.
Okay. At that time, Dr. Hern was only one of only 4 doctors in the United States performing late-term abortions. Dr. Hern earned his medical degree at CU in 1965. He did an internship in the Panama Canal Zone. There he helped pregnant women give birth and helped other women recover from dangerous illegal abortions. He tried to protect poor women from sterilization abuse as an official in the Federal Office of Economic Opportunity, otherwise known as the War on Poverty. In January of 1975, he opened the Boulder Abortion Clinic, his private medical practice, which he still runs today. Since 1971, Dr. Hern has written dozens of medical journals, articles, editorials, and many other publications concerning abortion and human fertility. He has also received many awards for his scientific contributions and defense of reproductive freedom. A little bit personal stuff here, okay? In that movie, Dr. Tiller did he talked. And a quote that I really liked, abortion is not about babies, not about families. It's about hopes and potential for the rest of women's lives. Abortion is a matter of survival for women. So I want to know who in this room has had or knows someone who has had an abortion. You would raise your hand. Wow, just about everybody in the room. Thank you. My mother had 2 abortions. She followed her dreams, achieved a law degree, and is 94 years old. Unfortunately, she's in hospice. And I hope she's watching today. So thank you. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to give it to Kelli.
Sounds good. Can y'all hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate you guys giving me some of your time in your meeting today. I have an interesting background across public health. I started early in my career working in maternal and infant health, working on a project in a small rural county in Florida on reducing infant mortality rates. And then when I returned to Colorado in 2016, worked very closely with public health clinical services in Larimer County, moved through in communications, and now found myself in policy in Jefferson County. So I'm excited to talk a little bit with y'all about that today. And then if we could get the slides pulled up, they may be a little bit more interesting than seeing me on the screen. Awesome. Next slide, please.
Taylor, can you put on, or whoever, next slide? Okay.
I think you can hear that.
Did you hear that, Taylor? We're ready for the next slide.
Well, I'm on a span of reproduction here. Is that slide number 2?
We're looking at the title slide.
You want to stop sharing and start again, Taylor?
So when I do this, I'm seeing the slides advance. You're not?
No.
No.
All right, I'll try something different. You would think 3 years into the pandemic that we would have figured out Zoom.
I struggle with it myself every day. There we go.
And yes.
Okay.
So I often talk about reproductive health as, a span that encompasses a number of things. I think we all are readily familiar with reproductive health around the conversations to do with family planning, birth control access, someone's ability to determine how to carry forward a pregnancy if they choose to do that. And that certainly is a core and critical piece of reproductive health. However, in my experience, it does encompass quite a bit more, and wanted to make sure that we touched on that today. And so a lot of the work that I did previously in sexual health related to ensuring that folks have the information, skills, and access to services to maintain their sexual health and well-being. Ideally, that begins when someone is younger and can establish that information and those skills at an early age that they can then carry forward throughout the rest of their life. And then in family planning, making sure that folks have access to effective methods of birth control that meet their needs so that they can determine if and when they would like to have their own children. If they do become pregnant, that they're able to access high quality prenatal care early in their pregnancy to maintain the health and well-being of themselves and of the infant that they may eventually deliver. And then, of course, post-pregnancy care, which unfortunately for pregnant individuals, the care focus often seems to shift to the infant, but there are critical aspects of post-pregnancy care for folks who have gone through a pregnancy around lactation support, screenings for postpartum depression, ensuring that they have access to family planning methods in this critical window to give their body a chance to recover and recuperate before potentially becoming pregnant again, and ensuring that they can make those choices effectively and in a timely way for themselves. And then continuing forward into making sure that those young families are set up well for success and given opportunities to maintain health, which then continues the cycle going forward. So it certainly encompasses a great deal of different topics and issues and needs throughout the lifespan of our communities. Next slide, please. And it's really important to think about, especially as we're talking about restrictions on folks' ability to access abortion care, is the economic context in which they're living. Unfortunately, the states where, now that it's a state decision as to whether or not abortion is an accessible service or a legal service, that many of the states that have abortion restrictions within their state laws or policies have some of the worst economic outcomes for women and families currently, which are not likely to be improved with further restrictions on reproductive health access and care. Things like the gender wage gap, the female poverty rate, and I do want to call out that at the national level, a lot of our data is collected with gender identities around men and women and don't include other identities like non-binary, transgender individuals. So we do talk about the female poverty rate, but know that that comes from a limited set of data on gender identity. Also, the poverty rates for families that are headed by women, and then of course, child poverty rates as well. So the conditions may already not be ideal economically, and without reproductive options, both to help folks avoid pregnancies that are not a good time for them, not a good thing for their health, something they're not ready to do yet. Those things are certainly exacerbated when folks have limited options to choose from. And then when individuals and families have children, thinking about how they can be supported with those young kiddos. Unfortunately, in many states, public benefits are heavily tied into family size and if someone's pregnant or if they have their own children already. So a lot of the work I did in Florida around infant mortality work and looking into what some of the health data indicated, Florida has an expanded Medicaid. And so one of the few ways that somebody can become eligible as an adult for Medicaid is by becoming pregnant or by having children, which an unintended consequence of that policy seems to be that it almost incentivizes folks to have children. Additionally, there's what's called the cliff effect. So a lot of times these income-based assistance programs, once somebody hits that cap of income that makes them no longer eligible, those programs don't step down a ladder. So if somebody suddenly crosses the threshold through a minor pay increase as they grow in their career, get a pay increase, their employer starts to address lower wages, sometimes these folks are in a position where they may actually need to turn down a growth opportunity or take a lower paying job to avoid having a sudden drop or loss of the assistance that they rely on for childcare, for feeding their families, for paying their rent or their light bills. So without having that kind of stepped approach, unfortunately, these programs don't help our families that rely on them continue to grow and then adapt their economic conditions so that they can step down slowly off those programs versus having a sudden loss of income from those benefit programs. Next slide, please. And so public health has played a huge role in reproductive health. Public health typically plays a gap filling role, and that is shifting over time as some of the insurance coverage gaps are starting to close a bit. And we find ourselves covering different gaps or gaps in different ways. But in the past several decades, we've done a lot of work within the field of public health to fill gaps specifically within reproductive health. These are just a few of the programs that touch that. Title X Family Planning Program is a federal program that was started under President Reagan to provide public funds out to states to do reproductive health services, which include things like birth control. All the services are really centered around helping somebody decide if and when to have children, but also provide services that maintain their wellness around that choice as well. So things like cervical cancer screenings, breast cancer screenings, STI testing and wellness visits. Medicaid is another important program that provides access to some of these services as well for routine preventative care, prenatal care. And we are seeing an expansion of this is already present in Colorado, but in other states where Medicaid coverage is extending postpartum as well. So after someone has a child, they're able to keep Medicaid for longer than they were previously. Maternal health, child health block grants. This provides funding for a number of different family support programs like nurse home visiting, which provides some nurse home help support for folks that are in first-time pregnancy. And as well as expanding that out to families that have multiple children. And Women and Infants and Children, which is a federal nutrition program to help families get access to fresh foods and more nutritious and healthy foods and information and education to maintain their nutritional wellness, both during pregnancy. So a lot of times folks become eligible during a pregnancy and then throughout their infant and their child's younger life as well to make sure that they're maintaining access to adequate nutrition. Next slide, please. And Colorado, outside of what has taken place already in the federal level, Colorado's taken a number of steps at the state level to really protect and expand access to reproductive health care as well. I believe it was about 2007 or so, a large private donation was made to the state to increase access to long-acting reversible contraceptive methods. This project really focused on getting these highly effective long-term birth control methods available to young folks, so to both teens as well as young adults, to make sure that they had a method that was easy to use and highly effective for them until they were ready to either switch to something else or start their families if that was the choice they were moving into. And this program was heavily evaluated through research, and a number of peer-reviewed research has come out related to this program in the years since it's been implemented. And it's found that it's had huge successes in Colorado. wild reductions in teen birth rates, in teen abortions, in reduced public assistance costs, enabling young people to continue and complete their education, start their families when they're at a place in their life where it's healthy and a good fit for them to do so, lowering birth rates among younger adults as well. It's had so many benefits that have been demonstrated, and not just anecdotally through, as I mentioned, published research, which has been impressive to see. Some of the costs that have been estimated to be avoided through the implementation of this program, it's several $million, to the tune of almost $70 million in the state. And this has been folded into the state's existing Title X programming. So this has just become part of the reproductive public health work that has taken place and continues to take place in Colorado. Next slide, please. And so Colorado's also implemented policy into addition to these programs, and in addition to the funding that they've put towards services. One such bill, which builds on a number of other historical bills too, is enshrining that folks in schools get access to comprehensive and medically accurate sexual health information. So that first bill, please. So House Bill 19-1032 updated a lot of the comprehensive sexuality education standards in Colorado. Sexuality education is not required to be taught in public schools in Colorado, but if it is, it must meet certain standards that are outlined in this bill, which builds off of legislation from years before. This includes things like consent, LGBTQ identities and relationships, safety in relationships, birth control methods, sexually transmitted infections, relationship information. It's a very comprehensive set of standards that need to be taught as part of sexuality education in Colorado. Next bill, please. And then Senate Bill 2109 established the reproductive healthcare program in Colorado. This provided a key way for folks who are undocumented to access certain reproductive healthcare services, primarily around contraception and birth control, and is currently working through being implemented right now. And next bill, please. And last year we had the Reproductive Health Equity Act, House Bill 1279 passed. This was passed, I believe, in March of last year, before the Dobbs decision came out, that protected reproductive autonomy and someone's individual rights to reproductive healthcare decisions being free from government influence in state law. So Colorado has done quite a bit of work to protect rights around reproductive healthcare and access to healthcare in Colorado, this bill being the latest way to do that as a state policy. Next bill, please. And state legislation is not the only way Coloradoans set reproductive health policy either. I believe it was 2020. Coloradoans voted to adopt a paid family and medical leave program. This is an evidence-based policy approach that helps families meet their needs and be able to step away from work when they have a new child, adopt a new child, but also provides an important way for folks to step back if they're having their own medical need or if they care for another family member who has a medical need as well. So it provides that important financial stability when those needs arise to let folks step away and then step back into their workplace and provide that continuity of employment when those unexpected emergencies or planned family events take place. Next slide, please. And of course, we know that there's been a number of national policy developments in recent years outside of the existing programs that have been in place for decades. First headline, please. Back in 2019, under the Trump administration, they made sweeping changes to federal reproductive policy. This included the Title X program, where a rule was changed that dictated that folks that received those Title X funds, clinics and providers could not provide referrals out to abortion care for clients that were seeking that service. Our clinicians were able to provide information about abortion that was factual at a higher practitioner level. So our nurse practitioners could have those conversations, but we couldn't actually provide a connection to service if that's what someone needed. Next headline, please. And then when the Biden administration came in, they reversed that policy and returned things back to the way the program had been operating for years before the Trump administration made that initial rule change. There's been some back and forth in recent years, unfortunately, with that program that has taken a lot of work for folks to navigate through. And while the original Trump administration rule was in place, a number of clinics had to exit the program because they couldn't meet that requirement. It was part of their service to provide abortion care, or for values-based reasons, they couldn't abide by not being able to make the referral, which weakened the national network of these programs across the country. Next. And then, as we all know, last year in the summer, the Supreme Court issued the Dobbs decision, which effectively overturned Roe v. Wade, which had protected abortion care as a right at the federal level. So this turned the decision about whether or not abortion services were legal or available to a state level decision. And as we're seeing in the wake of the Roe v. Wade decision being overturned, states are taking a number of different actions to either protect and expand or start to restrict access to abortion, depending on the leadership in each state. Next, please. And then another bill I wanted to highlight too that relates to some of the other spectrum of reproductive healthcare is the omnibus bill that Congress passed at the end of 2022. This is a bill that funded the government for the next fiscal year. And a lot of what was included in that bill had a lot of connections to health policy, including things like giving states the option permanently to expand Medicaid coverage for postpartum care. It disconnected the continuous enrollment for Medicaid from the public health emergency. So starting this month, states can now start to unenroll folks from Medicaid, which had been suspended while COVID impacts were rolling through the country. So there is quite a bit of health stuff going on in other venues as well, in addition to Supreme Court cases and some of the federal rule change processes that we've seen in the last few years. Next slide, please. And as some folks were mentioning at the beginning of the meeting, there are some legislative policies currently moving through the process in Colorado. There's House Bill 23-1218. This relates to transparency in which services hospitals do or don't provide that aren't a capability. So if a hospital does labor and delivery, but they don't offer tubal ligation type services, this bill intends to try and make that more transparent when folks are choosing a facility to deliver in, so that if a procedure like a tubal ligation is something they need and want to have happen as part of their delivery, that they're able to choose a facility that can make that happen for them. Senate Bill 23-188 provides protections for folks that are both providing as well as accessing reproductive health care. And this includes a number of different things, certainly abortion services, gender affirming care, sterilization services, routine reproductive health care, et cetera. Both protects providers by protecting their licenses, protecting their ability to be credentialed with health insurance, and protects them if care that is legally provided in Colorado based on what is legal and allowable in Colorado that may be illegal in other states, it would protect them from any criminal prosecution from another state. 189 is the Increasing Access to Reproductive Healthcare bill. This bill intends to expand access to certain reproductive health services and reduce cost sharing. So it seeks to reduce or eliminate things like copays or certain other premiums or ways that folks are paying out of pocket to get things like STI testing or sterilization, HIV treatment, those kinds of things, as well as building on and expanding on that reproductive healthcare program that was passed a couple years ago. And then 190, which deals with deceptive trade practices for individuals or entities that claim to offer services like birth control, backup or emergency birth control, or abortion services or information that in fact don't offer any of those services. And it also addresses clinicians that offer a service called abortion pill reversal, which is not a medically evidenced or recommended procedure that does have some health risks. It would provide certain licensure penalties for individuals that engage in that. And then there's also some budgeting policy going on as well. Colorado Children's Campaign has requested about $1 million of the state budget to go towards the state family planning program. Colorado has done a lot to expand and protect access to reproductive health care. Many of the states around us have added further restrictions, meaning that folks from those states, if they need the services, are coming here. So the additional funding is meant to help make Colorado better prepared to manage that increased demand that we've already been seeing since the DUB decision has been issued. A number of our providers are seeing quite a bit of increase in their wait time, both for abortion services as well as many other types of routine reproductive health care, and hopefully that funding can be put towards meeting that need. So it's encouraging to see that Colorado as a state has certainly engaged in reproductive healthcare funding, programming, policy work. It certainly has been a priority over the many years in Colorado that I've been here, and certainly before I moved to the state. And I anticipate that we'll continue to see this be a priority in Colorado. With that, I can hand it over to Dr. Hern.
Well, do you want me to continue now? What's the story? It looks like about 10 minutes here to go. Is that right?
Right on.
I need some guidance.
We're ready.
Hang
to go.
on.
20 minutes, right?
Well, okay.
Keep going, yeah.
So my understanding is you want me to talk for about 20 minutes. And I didn't prepare any slides. Pretty busy taking care of patients this week, so I didn't really get to do that. But first of all, I want to congratulate Kelli on her superb presentation. Really excellent. And I really would like to, Kelli, if you will help me get a copy of your slides, I would appreciate that very much. A lot of good information there. And I obviously want to thank the Arvadans for Progressive Action for inviting me to participate in this. I'm ecstatic to know that there are more than 2 or 3 progressive people in the town of Arvada, which I've never really thought that was even possible. And you have to be clandestine meetings at some bar or something. And so you actually have more people than you can get around just one little table. That's great. And
Dr. Hern, you do have 20 minutes. And then there'll be 15 minutes for questions.
Well, I'll see if I can find enough things to say. First of all, again, I thank you again for inviting me to participate in this. It's an honor, and I really applaud what you're doing. I think it's very, very important in many ways, and I won't go into all the reasons I think it's important, but anyway, you know it's important. And I think that what I would like to do with my time is to give you a little history and review of what experiences that I've had and what I've seen from a historical point of view. I've seen a lot of this stuff happen from the beginning. I mean, I was a medical student in the early 1960s. And during that time, when I was on my 3rd year of medical school, in the clinical year, when you actually see patients to take care of them, I started learning how to deliver babies, and which I loved doing. It was wonderful, except for the women who were going to give up their babies for adoption. They were extremely sad. It was a cruel system. But in any way, during that time, there was a woman who went to Denver General Hospital to have an abortion, and she was refused. She went home, shot herself in the uterus with a gun, and then drove herself to the hospital. That's how desperate she was to end her pregnancy. There are lots of stories like that, but this is one of the most appalling. And it shows that women will have abortions, whether they're legal or safe. And that's been true for thousands of years. You know, the Greek physicians knew how to do this. I mean, this women's culture has had this as part of their culture for thousands of years. And many times very sophisticated home remedies and herbal preparations, things. But anyway, so when I came into this in medicine, abortion was illegal. It was considered a very disreputable thing to do. No respectable doctor would do it.
So we're still on Zoom and we'll just see if he's able to log back in.
Okay. Oh, looks like he's trying.
What is that on the right-hand side of the screen, Robin?
On the right-hand side. The
Oh,
chat, yeah.
Oh,
Catherine, do you have a telephone number?
no. Oh, for Dutch, let me see if I have something like that.
He may not know that he has been disconnected.
Uh-oh.
May not know it's been disconnected.
Wasn't it him who just asked for
See if I have- There's something I do. Let's see if I can find his assistant's phone number. I think I have that. I don't know if that'll work. That was Alicia.
Well, Kelly, while we're trying to get him back again, there was a question that was directed to you in the chat. Maybe you could go ahead and address that.
Certainly. It's a multi-part question. I may have to get clarification on one or two pieces in here.
This is me. Just a
go ahead.
dump. This is Carly. So sorry. This was just kind of like a brain dump that I had on a sticky note when I was looking and putting this on my calendar. But just interested how or if Roe's reversal affects sterilization laws. I am a Hispanic woman, and we have family members who in the past had experienced forced sterilization. And so I have no idea if those two are connected, but I just thought I'd ask that if anybody knows. And then two, just kind of thinking about messaging and kind of building bridges. Again, being a Hispanic woman, we are culturally Catholic, even if you don't go to church. But just after watching your presentation, it really dawned on me that reproductive justice is a very quote unquote pro-life policy. And I don't know that I have anything to really offer here, but how can we talk and build bridges about how this reproductive justice is about economic justice and it's about being pro-life? And I think that's more about how we talk about it, and maybe some educational group stuff that we can do as APA with some of the Catholic groups in our area. I know it sounds Pollyannish, I know, but I just have to believe that we can get there. And then the last one is just kind of a sticky personal one. I was pregnant there's my son in the background. I was pregnant during the pandemic when the vaccine was coming out, and was getting lots of back and forth information, and worked for an employer who was very supportive of whatever my choice was, and was watching in the news and knowing people who were making the choice of whether or not to quit their job or take the vaccine, which they didn't know was safe. And I should say, for the record, we are not anti-vaxxers, and I am now fully vaccinated and I am boosted. And at 6 months, I got vaccinated with my son, but there was a lot of misinformation. And when thinking about reproductive justice and who to listen to, science isn't always clear on some of those things, but how do we square that value of my body, my choice, when employers do have the right to say my way or the highway? And I know there's a lot there, so I don't want to commandeer the meeting, but if there's one that you think that you could speak a little bit more to, or if the group has anything to offer, I just kind of wanted to throw it out there, because I feel like there are opportunities to build bridges here, even though I know it sounds very Pollyannish. Thank you.
No, I certainly hear what you're saying. I think I may have to do more digging into your question around sterilization law. I mean, the United States, and I assume in other countries as well, have unfortunately a dark history around forcing sterilization on certain communities and groups, and committing many other atrocities around reproductive health and autonomy and dignity and rights, certainly. in terms of where the reversal of Roe impacts anything that's still currently in law or being implemented in the United States, I'd have to dig more into that, but do certainly acknowledge the harm that's been done there. In terms of reframing reproductive justice as a pro-life issue, I think a number of folks certainly make an argument that it is. Yeah, I think from a public health standpoint and just a moral standpoint, I think we would all like to see every child be wanted and be born into a context where they are going to have the best chance of success, which means their parents have to have the best chance of success too. And when folks are able to make those choices for themselves with their doctors who can determine, you know, what is the best situation for them, that's really where we see that opportunity flourish. I think there has been a lot of rhetoric around pro-choice movement or supportive work around ensuring access to abortion care being framed as something that is potentially violent or unwanted or anti-child or anti-infant or anti-mother, you know, certainly is without the broader economic context of how reproductive autonomy and choice helps set families up for economic success, which has economic impacts and benefits beyond just that person or that family. You know, if folks are able to stay and get their education and then they stay in the workforce, and all of those things lead to an educated, engaged, productive employee, which has community-wide economic benefits. So it certainly is a pro-person approach to ensure that folks have the information and services that they need to either avoid an unwanted pregnancy or appropriately manage one in whatever way is best for them. And then your question or kind of experience around COVID vaccines, yeah, I think you're correct. There is a lot of back and forth information early on with COVID vaccines and pregnancy in particular. I was doing communications work for a health department here in Colorado during the early phase of COVID into about the second year of COVID after the vaccines were initially released, and we were all kind of trying to figure out what the best approach is at the federal level, at the state level, and at the local level when it came to the vaccines and pregnancy. And we certainly kind of landed on, you know, someone who is pregnant and their pregnancy care provider are the best folks to figure out if this is going to be the right option for them. However, that was also in the context of knowing that there was a lot of misinformation about COVID starting to fly at that time too. And unfortunately, folks being able to make an educated and informed choice wasn't very clear for a lot of folks, given how much misinformation was out there. That is certainly, I think, something public health will look back on and say, this is something we need to be prepared for and do it differently to make sure that folks are getting credible and good information that isn't meant to stoke fear, and leaves folks in a place where they can have that conversation productively with their doctor, who's going to be the best person to talk to about what their need is. I think certainly employers who made those vaccine policies were well-intentioned, and those policies were in alignment with the guidance for COVID vaccines for adults who weren't pregnant. And I was in a workplace where we required COVID vaccines, but they did allow for folks to talk with their doctor and make a choice that was best for them in the case of a pregnancy. So there's certainly a medical reasons why somebody may not be a good candidate to be vaccinated. And that's something that should be worked out with their physician or their healthcare provider. So it's not a black and white issue for sure. And certainly I do hear that when those vaccines came out, the misinformation came pretty quickly, which made it fairly challenging to navigate what was good information and what wasn't.
Thank you so much. That's really helpful. And I was writing down some of that language to share with my friends at church, if you will. Thank you so much for that. I just really think that lifting up to them the amazing work that you have done to reduce unwanted pregnancies is really a fantastic place that, you know, that I don't think that they find that articulated that much. And to your point about misinformation, kind of where are you getting your information? I think that would be really helpful for us as APA to start, some more conversations about doing some more purposeful communications there. And of course, our communications team lead is off today on a well-deserved vacation, but I would just offer that up for the greater good, because I really do feel like that's something that would speak to my Catholic cousins. Thank you so much.
I don't know if we got Dr. Hern back, but if not, I'm happy to take other questions.
Are we getting them back?
We don't have Dr. Hern back, so we're gonna take questions from the room. And so Teresa, did you have a question? Just make sure you speak really, come on up here and speak into the owl.
I was just gonna dovetail with what Carly said, and was raised Catholic, a Regis graduate, and we need to stress that pregnancy is not risk-free for the mother. I almost died my first pregnancy, and not every pregnancy is viable. It could be an ectopic, and there's a lot of birth issue, abnormalities. And so I think when we're reaching out to our Catholic, that we need to lead with that kind of information, that those decisions need to be between the pregnant person, their doctor, their partner, and not a celibate person.
Right. I was raised Catholic, and I'll second that.
But that's my opinion.
And my opinion, to further, expound on that, I feel my personal opinion is that pro-choice does not equal
Uh-oh, the room is muted for me.
Kelly, I'm sorry. Can you hear us?
There,
now?
is that
Now
better?
I can hear you. Yep.
Okay. So you probably missed the last two comments then? I'm sorry.
No, just the last maybe sentence or so that someone was saying.
Gage,
Yeah.
can you say that again?
I just, personally, my feeling is that pro-choice does not mean pro-abortion, it means pro-choice. And I think a lot of people, they go straight to reproductive rights equals, anybody can have an abortion. It's abortion is good. Abortion is not good. It's the best option for some people. It's a necessary healthcare procedure, and pro-choice is not pro-abortion, it's pro-choice.
Did you hear that, Kelly?
I did. Yep. Yeah, certainly that rhetoric that it's folks, great way to phrase it is, or promoting the use of abortions. I think healthcare providers and public health is not that we would advocate for the overuse of abortion, but if somebody is in the need, and whatever the need is defined by them, certainly abortion is not something folks are typically in a positive place when they find themselves needing one, whether it's a pregnancy that is no longer viable, it's a pregnancy they didn't intend. Those aren't generally positive reasons why somebody finds themselves in need of an abortion.
Yeah, I called his answering service and they were going to tell him to tune back in. So I don't know if it's going to happen or not, quite frankly. I don't have his personal phone number. I called the clinic and that's when I got the answering service. So they can reach him. Hopefully he will reach us.
Are there other questions from the room? And please, feel free to come on up here and just talk right in that owl so that Kelly can hear you.
I have a stage voice, so I don't need to do that. But I have a question about the LARC program in Colorado. I read several years ago that it paid for itself because of the reduced amount of services that were needed for people that couldn't afford them. But I also read that it's no longer in place. And so I'm wondering, is that true? It's no longer in place, and what do we need to do? Because it seems a no-brainer to me, if it pays for itself, that we should still be doing it.
What is LARC?
That's the long-acting reversible contraception program that she spoke of earlier.
Oh,
Yeah.
right.
No, it was not Depo because that's dangerous. It was the Nexplanon and IUDs.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I guess in the sense that it's a separately funded effort, in that sort of sense, I guess it's ended, but really it's been folded in the Title X program in Colorado.
So it isn't
So it
really
was,
ended.
no, it was enfolded into that work that was already ongoing. So the Title X program in Colorado has been in place for a number of years. And when this anonymous donation was made to promote LARCs to teens specifically, it was implemented through that existing infrastructure. And so now that it's demonstrated success, it's got all, all the various ways that it's demonstrated success, the state has stepped in to say that this is important, this is effective, and this is an important way that our existing structure has expanded their services to provide a benefit across the state. And so it's just enfolded into that work now. So Title X clinics across the state, Jeffco Public Health being one service provider, sometimes they're at a health department like here, sometimes they may be at a nonprofit healthcare provider. They provide those services and continue to provide IUDs, Nexplanon, in addition to all the other types of birth control somebody might want to use, and preventative healthcare as well. So it's just part of that broader Title X network of clinics.
How do people, like if someone needs access to that, how do you get them in touch with those clinics?
So which clinic it would be would depend on where they are. The best place to find kind of the comprehensive list of where all the clinics are across the state is the state health department's website. So the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment. And if you just Google CDPHE, and I can put this in the chat or send it afterwards as a reference, their family planning program, if you just Google that, it'll come right up as a top result. And there's a list of all the clinics that participate in the program.
Thank you.
Yeah. A question. You mentioned a bill about this denied procedures. And I was just wondering if you could go into that a little more. What does it do? How does it help people get access to these procedures, et cetera?
So the language in the title of that bill is a little wonky to navigate. The intent of the bill is to help with transparency around if someone goes to a facility for some routine procedure, namely childbirth, labor delivery, and they're denied access to a particular service for non-medical reasons, it's aiming to make that more transparent that the service isn't available to begin with. So if somebody is in a pregnancy, they're trying to figure out which facility they want to deliver in. If they want something like a tubal ligation, if, for example, a facility doesn't offer that for religious reasons, there's some level of transparency there so that if that's something someone needs and wants, they're able to choose a facility that does offer it instead. Because sometimes folks can end up in a facility expecting that to be a service that will be available to them as part of their delivery, and then in the middle of their delivery figuring out that it's not, and then having to make a separate procedure, appointment, recovery period from their delivery in order to access this procedure.
Okay, we do have Dr. Hern back on. Dr. Hern, can you hear us?
Yeah, I think that I'm trying to find out what happened, and I guess you lost me for the last 10 or 15 minutes.
Yeah, we what was one of the
I can't remember what I said, so I guess it doesn't really matter.
I think you were talking about the difficulty that some women are, historically, they will end their pregnancy regardless.
Yeah, that's the last.
I can't hear you, I'm sorry. What?
The last thing that we heard you say is that women will end their pregnancy regardless, and that's been true throughout history.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, there was a lot of stuff. I can't remember what I said. I guess it wasn't recorded either, huh? I guess we lost that. Yeah, that's the way it is. Well, anyway, thank you for inviting me. I'm sorry we lost the connection in the middle of that. So.
Yeah, he's back. So Kathy, do you want Dr. Hern to say a few more comments, or would you rather give the audience an opportunity to ask questions at this point?
Why don't we ask, can we ask ask questions or maybe 5 minutes of talking about your stories and then 10 minutes of people's questions. Would that be okay? Dr. Hern?
Me?
5
Hello?
more. Here's some more stories. More stories for 5 minutes and then questions for 10
Well, I
minutes.
think that I went through a lot of things about 40 or 50 years of history there after I made the comment that you last heard. So I don't know if I want to try to do that again. I'm sorry we lost that. I should have recorded it myself. But all I can say is that I'm glad you're supporting reproductive freedom and health, and there's a lot to talk about with that. And I mean, if you have any questions, let me see if I can answer them.
Okay.
Okay.
Questions from the audience?
Pat, come talk right into the,
Yeah.
Hi, Dr. Hern. I did have a chance to watch After Tiller, and I'm glad I did because it helped educate me about the kinds of situations women find themselves in to need late-term abortions. I really kind of was struggling with that and understanding why it was important. And so I wonder if you, and I might not be the only one, and I wonder if you might just give us an idea of some of the circumstances under which women need that, ask for that at that stage of their pregnancy.
Well, at this point in my practice, I went through, by the way, all this history of the last 50 years and how we got to this point. So I won't try to recapitulate that, but where we are right now is that we do specialize in seeing patients who have very advanced pregnancies and need to have an abortion, have a pregnancy termination. And a very large proportion of those women are women who have a late diagnosis of a catastrophic fetal abnormality in a desired pregnancy, and they need to end the pregnancy. And at that point, they can't possibly have a healthy baby. So the main thing about the pregnancy is it's a threat to their life. And I think that performing the abortions, and by the way, I want the phrase that I would recommend is late abortion, not late term abortion, a propaganda term invented by the anti-abortion people to imply that we're killing babies at term, which means at the end of pregnancy, which is not true. But then that's a typical false propaganda lie. But these women come in and are desperately sad about ending the pregnancy, but doing this safely takes a lot of time and effort, lots of steps to make it safe, so that a patient will be here for 3 or 4 days having different steps. And like, to be specific, one of the, after all the routine physical exam and everything else, one of the first steps is an injection into the fetus, which stops the fetal heart, and then placing laminaria, which is seaweed sticks, into the opening of the uterus to help the cervix open up, give her medications, and then on the 3rd or 4th day to rupture the membranes, release the amniotic fluid, and induce labor, and then empty the uterus with forceps or an assisted delivery. So it's a complicated and expensive process, much more complicated with an early first trimester work. There's no comparison. Then the other thing is we have women who come in who didn't know they were pregnant, or the doctors told them they couldn't get pregnant, or the doctors did not tell them the diagnosis of the pregnancy that they should have been told until it was too late to have an abortion in their own state. Or they had a medical abortion which failed, which is pretty common, and then they don't find out for.
We should have got his number.
I could actually address that last question. This goes back a number of years, and in theory, if women are receiving proper prenatal care, most birth defects can be detected in time, depending, of course, how early the state is starting to restrict abortions. In some cases, states are restricting abortion to the point where women may not even know that they're pregnant. But I personally know a woman, she and her husband had been trying to get pregnant for a very long time. They had painted the nursery, they had chosen names, and very late, like close to 6 months late, they went in for a routine screening, and as the individual was doing the screening, suddenly went quiet and immediately left and brought in additional medical. They discovered at that time that the baby had an irreparable and fatal problem, and if they attempted to carry the child to term, not only the infant would die, but she quite possibly could as well. So the assumption that many states seem to be doing is that women will always find out in plenty of time, and there's never a need for a late abortion, and that medically just is not the case.
I just wanted to throw out for the group, you all may know more about it than me, but I saw on the news a class action lawsuit being filed by several Texas women, I believe, who wanted a pregnancy and could no longer carry the pregnancy, but were told by their doctors, because of this new state law, we don't know if we're allowed to help you. Oh, by the way, you could die, but I can't help you here. Go home and see whether or not you need to come back to the emergency room. And so that idea of having, that oath of providing life-saving care, it's being inhibited by these laws. It puts, to me, it brings up this whole field of bioethics and what is ethical and what is right, and what kind of catch-22 situations we are putting our medical professionals in. I think it's, in the end, what it does is it hurts babies and women. You know what I mean? It's the exact opposite of what they say they want. It is, and so I just wanted to throw that out there, because I think that is that's a class action lawsuit that I really am watching, because I think it's going to have I'm hoping that it's going to have some impact on some of those state laws.
We have Dr. Hern back.
Yeah, I think that we're getting a message from God that either what I have to say is too controversial and not worth listening to. So I really think that this is an unfortunate interruption, but I appreciate very much you inviting me to participate.
Oh, well, thank you. Dr. Hern.
Maybe some other day. Thank you.
Thank you to Kelly also. I guess maybe we should, any more questions?
More questions?
Did you leave? Oh, left.
Yeah.
Maybe we could have him come in person sometime.
I just want to know what his succession plan is. Like, who's going to take over when
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
retire? That's like, because we're one of the only places where people can get services like that.
There are like 4 providers in the country.
There are, yeah.
In the country, and that's what came out in this After Tiller movie. And these people, the doctors, they kind of feel like they can't leave.
Right.
It's so critical.
Like, does he have any other doctors in his clinic that are working under him? I'm really worried.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I ask one more question from Kelly?
Yeah.
Can you speak at all to the exception language? I think it came up a little bit with Dr. Hern's work on kind of when an abortion late in pregnancy might make sense. So I'm curious about your thoughts on kind of the continuum between that and things like states claiming that their abortion bans are okay because they have certain exceptions.
Okay.
Like the exceptions of like incest, life of the mother, those kinds of things. Is that what you're referring to?
Sorry, is that loud enough? Yes.
Okay. Yeah, and every state's doing their exceptions a little bit differently. And I think, I guess I can speak from my own personal experience. I grew up in Texas, and Texas is, I think, at 6 weeks abortion restriction, which is, I think, earlier than most people know that they're pregnant. In addition to the fact that they've established a policy at the state level that takes effect before somebody realizes that that policy may affect them, Texas also hasn't invested in education for youth, other community-based services, expansion of Medicaid. So someone in Texas, unless they can figure it out on their own, often doesn't have the information or access to prevent a pregnancy to begin with, much less for somebody who wants a pregnancy. They've become pregnant, they desire this pregnancy and find themselves in the tragic situation where their pregnancy can't go forward for medical reasons, to what Dr. Hern spoke of. And so it is this kind of, you can only become pregnant if you want to be and choose to be. And if you find yourself in need of an abortion at all, or an abortion at a later stage of your pregnancy, that is somehow something you have control over. The broader context really is that in many ways that autonomy and control, if that's the argument someone's looking at, isn't present to begin with. Texas, as a result, when I lived there, and I think still has one of the highest teen pregnancy rates in the country, also has one of the highest maternal mortality rates in the country. And so they're limiting access at this later stage when somebody has become pregnant and may eventually have a child if they're able to do so. But they've almost created an environment where that is the default path that someone would be on.
Any other questions for Kelly? And then we're gonna have to, like maybe 1 or 2 short questions. And then I'll do a wrap up real quick. Go ahead.
I would just like to say that we also need to be open about talking about miscarriage and how that affects women's health and the treatments that they can get for that.
Certainly. Yeah. I mean, a miscarriage doesn't always just happen and then it's over. Sometimes it does require some medical assistance. And that, unfortunately, that narrative has gotten twisted into being something that it isn't, which is a medical event that's happened to somebody that was outside of their control.
Well, and in that case, in many cases, the medicine that is required to be used is exactly the medicine that they're currently attempting to ban.
Go ahead, Ally.
But it's not going to click. So Kelly, I think the one thing that I want to ask about and implore people, because this is a topic that is very near and dear to my heart. I spent the last year working on this from my union perspective, trying to help Google not allow fake clinics anymore, which we sort of got them to change, but not allow fake clinics to show up in search results.
Yeah.
I think, yeah. So Kelly, I think one of my questions for you is, it feels like everything's great in Colorado. We're passing reproductive justice protections. We're protecting kids more. We're doing a lot more for our healthcare. But I think what it may be helpful to leave people with is, what is your suggestion from don't rest on your laurels. There's still more for us to do. And maybe, even from the impact of us supporting lots of people coming to our state. I don't know how much exposure you have to that, but that's maybe the angle that we can go down. I told you it wouldn't be a short one.
No, that's an excellent question. I think, to your point, Colorado has taken a number of strides and enshrined protections and given funding and established statewide infrastructure to promote access to reproductive health care services. That said, not everyone has access yet. Think of things like, can someone access a service in the language that they need? Is there a provider that they can conveniently access at a time where they don't, are able to be away from work? Do they have to go somewhere in person? Do they have a telehealth option? Do they have internet if telehealth is an option? Certainly, since Colorado has made a number of strides, doesn't mean that everyone in Colorado can easily get what they need. So I think there is still a lot of work to do around making sure that services are culturally appropriate. They're offered in languages people can speak and understand things like health literacy, making sure that providers can converse with their patients in plain language. You know, reproductive health is kind of a charged thing and folks tend to be kind of anxious or nervous about it, and then making sure that they get information from their provider that they can digest and put to use and make decisions for if they can get to the point of being in front of a provider. So I think there's always room for additional funding around making sure that these services are present in communities that need them, making sure that when they are present, that they're accessible, both in a time, hours, location kind of way, but also from that cultural relevancy standpoint too. So there certainly is more work to be done. And Colorado's laid a solid path, and I am curious to see where the state continues to travel that path.
Okay, well, I hope those bills that you mentioned will go through. And I just wanted to thank you, Kelly, and Dr. Hern in absentia there for presenting today and at least trying. I'm not sure what the problem was on his end or sometimes it's our end. Okay, we have a healthcare action team meeting next Saturday, April 8th at 4 p.m. Contact me for more information. And you should check out our new and improved website, arvadansforprogressiveaction.org. And thank you all for attending, and thank you for your patience and your participation. I really, really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay. Excuse me, I noticed the logo on the back of your shirt. Are you from-